The Baiguiyuan subsidence crisis, a deep dive into a structural and societal catastrophe. Introduction. In late May and early June 2025, a devastating structural and geological disaster struck the Baiguiyuan residential complex in Balatai Town, Jinan District, Tianjin City, China. This sprawling development, featuring dozens of 26-story high-rise apartment buildings, became the epicenter of a crisis that displaced approximately 3,000 residents and exposed deep-seated issues in China's real estate industry, urban planning, and governance. The incident, marked by severe building subsidence, tilting structures, cracked foundations, and widespread ground instability, has sparked outrage among residents and raised critical questions about construction quality, regulatory oversight, and accountability. This report provides a comprehensive analysis of the event, its immediate impacts, potential causes, and the broader systemic failures it reveals, while ensuring a fresh narrative distinct from the original account. The onset of the crisis. The Baiguiyuan complex, developed by Country Garden, one of China's leading real estate firms, was designed as a beacon of modern urban living. Its towering high-rises and manicured grounds attracted thousands of residents seeking stability and comfort. However, in late May 2025, this vision unraveled as the ground beneath the complex began to fail. Residents first noticed subtle signs of trouble: hairline cracks in walls, slight tilts in building facades, and uneven pavement. These early warnings quickly escalated into a full-blown catastrophe. By May 31st, the situation had deteriorated dramatically. A loud explosion-like sound echoed through the complex around 6 p.m. later, attributed to the collapse of a drilling tower used for geothermal well construction near Balatai Road. The noise signaled the start of a cascade of failures. Buildings began to tilt visibly. Exterior walls detached and deep cracks appeared in foundations. The underground parking garage flooded with water, seeping through ceilings and pooling amidst debris from collapsed structures. Roads within the complex buckled, creating a rolling wave-like appearance, while lawns and open spaces split apart with some fissures reaching widths of 40 centimeters. The crisis reached a tipping point between the evening of May 31st and the early morning of June 1st, when authorities issued urgent evacuation orders for buildings 37 to 52. By June 3rd, the evacuation expanded to include buildings 30 to 52, affecting thousands of residents. The complex, once bustling with life, became a ghost town, with darkened high-rises and only a few scattered lights from apartments where residents had returned to retrieve belongings. Barriers were erected around the site, and police guarded entry points, creating an atmosphere of isolation and urgency. Residents' struggles. Displacement and desperation. The evacuation was a chaotic and emotionally charged process. Residents were roused from sleep in the early hours of June 1st by frantic knocks on their doors. Property management staff and local officials urged immediate departure, citing the risk of further subsidence and potential collapse. For some, the signs of trouble had been apparent earlier. One resident of Building 40 noted visible cracks between buildings and the ground on the evening of May 31st, which kept many awake with worry. Others, unaware of the unfolding crisis, were caught off guard, fleeing with minimal possessions. One resident of Building 42 described being awakened after 3 a.m. by officials who provided vague explanations about road subsidence and the need for safety. He and his wife left behind critical items, including medications, in their haste to evacuate. The lack of water and electricity in the affected buildings made retrieving belongings a daunting task, requiring residents to climb dozens of floors in darkened stairwells. Relocated to nearby hotels, residents faced significant challenges, from limited access to meals and laundry facilities to the emotional toll of uncertainty about their homes and futures. The Baiguiyuan complex was more than just a place to live. For many, it represented years of financial investment and personal dreams. The sight of tilting buildings and cracked foundations shattered that sense of security. Residents united in a singular demand: permanent relocation and resettlement for all affected households, rejecting any temporary fixes or mediation. "We've lost everything," one homeowner lamented, capturing the collective grief and frustration. Media coverage, selective reporting, and public distrust. The official response to the crisis was marked by a troubling lack of transparency. Local media outlets such as Jimu News and Kilu Evening News provided limited coverage focusing on superficial damage to roads, lawns, and the parking garage, while downplaying or ignoring the severe subsidence and cracking of high-rise buildings. This selective reporting fueled accusations of a deliberate cover-up, as residents felt their primary concerns were being sidelined. "Why do they focus on the minor issues and ignore the fact that our homes are collapsing?" one resident asked, echoing a widespread sentiment. The lack of comprehensive media coverage deepened public distrust. Residents took to online platforms to share videos and first-hand accounts documenting flooded parking garages, dripping ceilings, and extensive structural damage. These citizen reports contrasted sharply with official narratives highlighting the severity of the crisis and the authorities' reluctance to address it fully. The absence of a preliminary explanation for the structural failures, coupled with no mention of compensation, left residents feeling abandoned by both the government and the developer. Official response and expert investigation. In response to the crisis, the local government assembled a team of experts from institutions like Tianjin University, China Railway Design Institute, PetroChina, and Tianjin Survey and Design Institute. This group implemented immediate safety measures including 44 tilt monitoring points and 38 vertical deformation monitoring points with updates provided every 2 hours. Emergency construction plans were developed to stabilize the site, but the cause of the subsidence remained under investigation. Preliminary expert analyses suggested that the geothermal well drilling located near Balatai Road was unlikely to be the primary cause given its depth of 1,600 meters. Instead, attention turned to geological factors such as karst cavities or loose soil from the site's history as a sand quarry. Recent heavy rainfall and typhoon activity in Tianjin were also cited as potential contributors, as increased groundwater levels could have destabilized the ground. However, the lack of definitive answers and the authorities' reluctance to comment publicly fueled speculation and frustration. Potential causes. A complex interplay of factors. The Bigui Yuan incident is a multifaceted disaster with several potential causes. Geological instability. The complex's location on a former sand quarry suggests inherently loose soil, which may not have been adequately reinforced during construction. Tianjin's recent weather patterns, including heavy rainfall and typhoon impacts, likely exacerbated this instability by increasing groundwater levels and reducing the ground's bearing capacity. The presence of karst cavities underground, voids prone to sudden collapse, has been proposed as a possible trigger for the subsidence, as such cavities are not uncommon in certain regions of China. Construction quality and developer practices. The incident has reignited concerns about the quality of construction in China's real estate sector. Country Garden. The developer behind Bigui Yuan is known for its aggressive 4-5-6 model, which prioritizes rapid capital turnover, land acquisition, is followed by overnight design completion, pre-sales in the 4th month, capital recovery in the 5th, and reinvestment in the 6th. This accelerated timeline, coupled with slogans like "work with lights on at night" and "we don't rest until the universe reboots," suggests potential compromises in construction quality and safety standards. The Bigui Yuan complex, completed several years ago, reportedly passed occupancy inspections. However, questions remain about the rigor of these inspections and whether subsequent safety evaluations were conducted. The prevalence of Tofu-Dreg projects, shoddily built structures prone to failure, has become a recurring issue in China as developers prioritize profit over durability. The lack of regulatory oversight and enforcement of construction standards may have allowed latent defects to go unnoticed until they manifested catastrophically. Geothermal well drilling. The collapse of a geothermal drilling tower near Balatai Road coincided with the onset of the subsidence, leading residents to suspect a connection. While experts have downplayed the drilling's role, citing its depth, the construction process, marked by constant noise and vibrations, may have disturbed the fragile geological structure. The drilling site, located approximately 380 meters from Building 38, was a focal point of community concern, particularly given the timing of the rig's collapse. Environmental factors. Tianjin's recent heavy rainfall and typhoon activity likely played a role in destabilizing the ground. Increased groundwater levels can weaken soil structures, particularly in areas with loose or sandy soil. The combination of these environmental factors with potential construction deficiencies created a perfect storm, triggering the widespread subsidence and structural damage. Systemic issues. The role of developers and governance. The Biguiyuan crisis is a symptom of deeper systemic issues within China's real estate and governance frameworks. Country Garden's business model, while financially efficient, exemplifies the prioritization of speed and profit over quality and safety. The 4-5-6 model leaves little room for thorough planning or quality control, a practice emblematic of broader trends in the industry. The phenomenon of Tofu-Dreg projects has become a recurring problem as developers cut corners to maximize returns. The role of expert groups in the aftermath further complicates the picture. In China, such groups are often convened temporarily by government or corporate entities to address specific incidents. Comprising professionals from prestigious institutions, these groups issue reports that can serve to deflect responsibility from authorities or developers. The lack of legal accountability for their conclusions, combined with financial and political incentives, undermines their credibility. Historical examples such as the Three Gorges project and the SEG Plaza incident in Shenzhen illustrate how expert groups can be used to validate predetermined decisions, often at the expense of public safety and transparency. Historical context. The erosion of intellectual integrity. The Biguiyuan incident must be understood within the context of China's historical treatment of its intellectual class. The anti-rightist movement of 1957, launched by the Communist Party of China (CPC), marked a turning point in the country's intellectual landscape. Initially framed as an invitation for open criticism under the 100 Flowers policy, the campaign quickly turned into a trap, with over 550,000 intellectuals branded as rightists and persecuted. This purge dismantled the traditional scholarly class that had served as society's moral compass, replacing it with a system where expertise is often subordinated to political and economic interests. The absence of a morally grounded intellectual class has left China vulnerable to systemic failures. The Three Gorges project, for instance, was approved by the CPC before an expert group was convened to provide a veneer of legitimacy. Dissenting experts faced severe consequences, while those who supported the project were rewarded with prestigious titles and financial benefits. Similarly, the SEG Plaza incident saw an expert group attribute the building's shaking to wind-induced resonance, ignoring critical questions about construction quality and design flaws. These examples highlight a broader pattern. Expertise in China is often co-opted to serve power rather than truth. Societal implications. A crisis of trust. The Biguiyuan crisis has deepened public distrust in both developers and government institutions. Residents' demands for relocation and resettlement reflect not only their immediate needs, but also a broader desire for accountability and justice. The lack of clear communication from authorities combined with selective media coverage has fueled a sense of betrayal. As one resident stated, "We invested everything in these homes, and now we're left with nothing but promises." The incident also raises questions about the sustainability of China's rapid urbanization. The push for ever faster development, often at the expense of safety and quality, has created a landscape of vulnerable infrastructure. The prevalence of Tofu-Dreg projects, coupled with inadequate regulatory oversight, poses ongoing risks to millions of urban residents. Recommendations for reform. Addressing the issues exposed by the Bi-Gui-Yuan crisis requires comprehensive reforms, stricter construction standards, enforce rigorous building codes, and conduct regular safety inspections to prevent substandard construction. Developers must be held accountable for adhering to these standards. Two Tiburn oversight bodies to monitor construction projects and ensure compliance with safety regulations free from political or corporate influence. Accountability for developers. Companies like Country Garden must face consequences for prioritizing profit over safety, including financial penalties and mandatory reparations for affected residents. Transparent crisis communication authorities must provide timely and transparent updates during crises, addressing residents' concerns and outlining clear plans for resolution. Geological assessments. Conduct thorough geological surveys before approving large-scale developments to identify risks like karst cavities or loose soil. Support for displaced residents. Provide comprehensive support including permanent relocation, financial compensation, and access to essential services. Conclusion. The Bi-Gui-Yuan subsidence crisis is a stark reminder of the vulnerabilities inherent in China's rapid urbanization and lax regulatory frameworks. The combination of geological instability, questionable construction practices, and inadequate oversight created a perfect storm, endangering thousands of lives and displacing entire communities. While immediate efforts focus on stabilizing the site and supporting residents, the incident demands a broader reckoning with the systemic issues that allowed it to occur. By implementing robust reforms, China can begin to rebuild public trust and ensure the safety of its urban residents.